site. Now that a more suitable site for the county's new property has been found, work will start on the tower. It's intended to serve weak spots in the county's signal coverage. The county may eventually move the 911 dispatch entirely into the new building. There's a new land preserve in Niles Township. Chickaming Open Lands Director Ryan Postma tells us that they've acquired and announced the Trillium Woodlands Preserve.
The property is about 40 acres. It's a forested area. It's next to an existing natural area called Trillium Ravine Plant Preserve that's owned by Michigan Nature Association. So the two properties are adjoining.
The preserve can be found on Riverside Road, south of Walton Road, and east of US 31. Postma says Chickaming Open Lands is glad to purchase the property from its private owner and keep it pristine.
That's kind of a typical beech maple forest, that we have in this area. One of the features that really stands out in the spring, there's a lot of spring ephemerals, especially trillium, hence the name for the two properties.
There aren't any trails there just yet, but Postma says Chickaming Open Lands plans to develop some in the next year. They're also going to add a parking lot. Eventually, the trails at Trillium Woodlands Preserve will connect to the trails at the adjacent Trillium Ravine. This is now the 22nd land preserve owned by Chickaming Open Lands, and it's first in Niles Township. And for the 8th year in a row, the Southwest Michigan Community Action Agency is launching its Holiday Food Sharing Program, sponsored by the City of Benton Harbor, Whirlpool Corporation, and the PGA of America. 2024 KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship Director Brandon Haney tells us the Holiday Food Sharing Program collects and distributes around 400 food boxes and turkeys to Benton Harbor, Benton Township, and St. Joseph residents each year. He says it's always great to talk with the people who benefit.
It's one of the best parts of this program, right? Is we're out there for a few hours in the afternoon giving out the meals, and everybody's so appreciative of it. The community has been so welcoming to us, so it's great to be able to give back, and everybody deserves a good meal around the holidays.
Since the program's founding in 2015, it's helped more than 2,800 families in the area. Families can apply to be recipients of the food sharing program now through December 18. Applications can be picked up at several locations. We have a list on our website. They include the Benton Harbor City Hall, St. Joseph City Hall, and Benton Township Hall. The food boxes and turkeys will be distributed to families on Thursday, December 21st. In the WSJM newsroom, I'm Ken Lundberg.
We'll catch you up with sports here in just a few minutes. Also, John Prose is hanging out here in the studio with us, so we'll talk more about some of the great things that you've been up to lately. So we'll do that and so much more. Right now, let's find out what's happening around the nation and the world with ABC News.
ABC News, I'm Derek Dennis. Pushing for a new Israel-Hamas ceasefire, the release of more hostages, and more humanitarian aid into Gaza, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan sits down today with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. He met with Israel's President Netanyahu yesterday. The goal long-term, a two-state solution. Short-term, President Biden with a message for Israel.
I want them to be focused on how to save civilian lives, not stop going after Hamas, but be more careful.
On another war front, Ukraine's push for more international funding in its fight against Russia is stalled. House lawmakers have left for holiday recess, while the Senate is delaying its recess to work on an immigration border deal, a sticking point in more Ukraine funding. In the Georgia election interference case, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows goes to court today trying to appeal the charges against him, while former Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani will learn what he'll have to pay to election workers for defamation, falsely claiming they committed election fraud. This is ABC News.
Your sports update on the morning show is brought to you by True Blue Financial. Independent, uncomplicated, dedicated.
In the NBA last night, the Chicago Bulls opened the game on a 33-8 run to beat the Miami Heat 124-116. In the NHL, Jordan Staal broke a 1-1 tie midway through the second period as the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Detroit Red Wings 2-1. The Wings have lost 4 of their last 5. And Kyler Yamamoto scored 2 goals as the Seattle Kraken beat the Chicago Blackhawks 7-1. NFL Thursday Night Football last night had the Las Vegas Raiders over the LA Chargers 63-21. Saturday, the Colts host Pittsburgh at 4:30. The Lions are home to face Denver at 8:15 on Saturday night. That's a 7 o'clock pregame show on Rock 107 WIRX. And Sunday, the Bears are at Cleveland at 1 o'clock. College basketball this weekend, number 6 Baylor is at Michigan State at 2 o'clock. That game is at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. The pregame show on Super Hits 103.7 Cozy FM is at 1 o'clock, and Eastern Michigan is at Michigan at 2:30 on Saturday. The pregame show on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM is at 2 o'clock. With sports, I'm Dave Wolf.
When Cornerstone Alliance talks about bringing new business to Southwest Michigan, it includes creating an inviting environment. That includes superior healthcare systems. That's why Cornerstone works hand in hand with Corewell Health South.
We spent a lot of time, of course, upgrading all of our facilities. That's important not only to give great care, it's really important.
All right.
Hey, look at that.
Let's do this.
Should we put John in the video stream?
Yeah,
there he
all
is.
right, there he
All right.
is. John Prose is here.
You're the correct side.
You got the good side. We got the good side.
You got the yeah.
I don't think you have a bad side.
Yeah,
I'll just be honest.
I don't know. Have you talked to my wife? I'm sure there's an answer there.
I have.
Oh my goodness.
Check out that. Got the donuts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Donuts. Yeah. Put mine on camera as well.
I didn't even grab a donut.
You should go get a donut.
Grab it. You gotta get a donut, man. We've got a few minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll
go
grab
get a donut.
I'll grab a donut.
Grab
Here,
yourself.
I'll
have an
show
extra,
all of our
extra
friends.
napkin here.
There we go. Thank you. All right, back in a moment.
All right. So we've got former state senator John Prose in with us. We're going to talk about the Growing Michigan Together Council report. Yeah, I mean,
you printed it off. Oh, nice.
I did.
Very nice. That's like real newsy right there.
Well, they have so many different documents, and it's tough to look at a document for any length of time electronically.
Yeah.
Plus, if you just look at it on the screen, you miss the pretty little graphics.
Oh, the graphics, the little pretty
the little
graphics aren't
circle
there?
thing that they do.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
That looks like clip art, though. So I hope they didn't spend too much money on that. Anyway.
Blueberry.
Oh, did you get the blueberry? Oh, look
I
at
went
you.
full blueberry.
Oh, cake donut. Smart.
I had considered that one because I know it's a good one, but I'm glad I didn't because you would have had no choice.
There you go. Thank you. Can't go wrong. I mean, blueberry capital of the nation, right? We do well in blueberries.
We do well in blueberries.
Our population of blueberries is fantastic.
We should grow more blueberries.
We should grow more.
Yeah, if we could just wipe out certain areas and just put blueberry
wipe
blueberry
out certain areas.
Yeah. I'm talking about unused land.
I was going to say, what are you calling for
I think
here?
he was talking about Detroit.
Let's move
big
this
blueberry patch there.
Let's move that. We've got some property here in the back that might be great for blueberry growth.
Right. We saw some deer again, speaking of wildlife, in the back.
Oh, you did?
Yesterday, and they were trying to cross the road, and they did successfully, thank goodness.
Oh, boy.
I don't want to see that, but I can't look away either.
Well, when we got this lot that's been for sale for a long time across the street,
yeah,
that'd be a nice little blueberry grove.
That'd be a good idea. Urban blueberry patch.
Gail should be out there in a sandwich board saying land for sale.
Hear ye.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, Gail.
Let's see. We've got Bill on the live stream. Hi, Bill. Good morning.
Morning, Bill. And kind of a handful of people
And
watching.
happy Friday to you, too.
All right, we'll talk here in about a minute.
Okay. We'll start off maybe talking about population. I was looking at, where did I find that? A lot of states are losing population. Illinois has been suffering the same problem for a long time. It seems like it's more severe over there. New York as well, some of the urban areas, but the urban areas are seeing some rebound post-pandemic. But what was surprising to me was the top 12 fastest growing U.S. states. So we'll talk about that as kind of the setup here.
You didn't print off all 85 pages, did you?
Oh, heck no. I got the executive summary. I always look for the executive summary.
I was going to say, we don't.
Even though I'm not an executive, I'd take it.
I was wondering if I would have to replace the toner in the printer.
I think it's broken again. I got an email that the printer's broken again.
You keep
Something about it.
Stuff off.
No, it's that it can't focus.
Oh.
The printer can't focus. We got an email saying the printer can't focus.
Middle-aged and losing eyesight or something.
Yeah, it's glaucoma or something.
That happened to me.
That.
Here we go.
That's nbas.org.
Mostly sunny skies today. Winds will be light, but out of the southwest, and that's going to help get us up around 48 this afternoon. Will become cloudy as we head into this evening, and overnight we'll drop down to 36. And cloudy skies for Saturday. Late in the day, we'll see a few chances of rain. The best chance of rain will be Saturday night and into Sunday morning. Highs Saturday at 47, 48 on Sunday. I'm meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Jonny and Ken on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
Hey, good morning. We are broadcasting worldwide on the WSJM live stream on our Facebook and our YouTube. And also you can listen and watch the show. I don't think we can find the video you can find the Facebook page on the app, but you can listen to the show on the app as well. So download that for free.
Yeah.
We got a special guest in here that has brought us breakfast. The donuts are in hand, and John Prose is here.
That's right.
A quick hit of sugar.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that. Former state senator John Prose, a member of the a member of, what do you call it? Of the working part of the governor's Growing Michigan Together Council.
3 subcommittees, and then there was like the big boy committee.
All right.
Were you in the big boy table?
I was not on the voting big boy committee.
Oh.
Yeah. But you were on the working committee, so you got to do the actual work.
Correct. That's
Some of it. We'll talk about that in a second. But just to set this up, the Growing Michigan Together Council was formed by the governor 6 or 7 months ago, and it was formed to address a problem of declining population in Michigan. And just to put it into perspective, 9 out of the last 12 years, between 2010 and 2022, we had increases in our state population, but we also had one of the largest declines in state population in 2021, when the population dropped 0.3%.
That's correct.
That's right. And so we're not alone in that. There are other states in the union that are suffering some population declines, but our governor said we've got to do something about this. We've got a population of about 10 million, but we can't continue to suffer declines and expect to continue the prosperity that we've seen in previous years. So, I mean, is that an accurate description
Absolutely.
of why the council was formed?
That's exactly right. I think, I think a couple of things we need to keep in mind, though, too, is that if you're a growing population, that assumes a couple things. That assumes that we have a growing economy. That assumes we have thriving families, and the population itself is thriving. That assumes that we have a robust education system. That assumes that we have infrastructure that puts people to and from jobs that exist and are growing. I mean, so this isn't rocket science, right? It's not anything that's terribly difficult to figure out. If we're 49th in population growth, we're going to be in a bad spot when you look at our peer states that are semi-similar to us, that bring a lot of the same sort of opportunities in terms of size, et cetera. So whether that be Colorado or North Carolina or Iowa or Indiana. And Indiana, of course, is just miles from us to the south.
Right.
So we look at these peer states and say, what are they doing and what are we not? Or what do we do really well and what do we need to enhance? But I have to tell you, what's interesting to me, and I was honored to be asked to serve. Now, here's why. In Southwest Michigan, this question was asked in 2014-15, and then in 2016, leaders in Southwest Michigan came together and said, we're going to ask questions that are difficult to ask, because it appears to us that we're having a challenge keeping population. We're having a challenge getting people to work. We have housing concerns, which, by the way, still exist today. We are concerned that we're losing population to the point that we can't keep our businesses and industries growing. That became the Strategic Leadership Council. Dr. Hamill at then Lakeland Health, Jeff Fettig, then CEO and chairman of the board for Whirlpool Corporation, Rob Cleveland, who was here then and is here today in economic development, Anna Murphy, Pam Klein now, previously Jeff Knoll at Whirlpool Corporation, Trevor Kabatsky, Todd Gustafson, many CEO level leaders in Southwest Michigan came together and said, how are we going to address the same questions? Get this, the exact same questions the governor put into place 6 months ago with an appropriation to help to develop what was published yesterday, which is the Growing Michigan Together Council report. We're doing those same things already, which is why when I left the legislature, I became executive director of the Strategic Leadership Council, seeking to answer those very same questions in Berrien County, right? We have 83 counties in Michigan, Berrien County being one of them. But the input that I was able to provide was from a very direct lens of how do we make this work in Berrien County? And where can we better collaborate with the organizations that already exist here trying to solve some of those problems? Berrien County, some of the worst roads. How do we solve that? Berrien County, we're losing population to Indiana. Why? What is Indiana doing in terms of an ecosystem that builds stronger communities, that builds stronger opportunities? These are the sorts of things that were already being asked by all of us. I got to go into that council and say, hold on.
Here's my notes.
Here are my notes, right? This is what we've found in Berrien County. What can we apply that we've learned already? And Michigan has natural assets that I didn't see a lot of in the report. Natural assets such as fresh water.
Yep.
It's certainly mentioned. It's a part of the conversation on infrastructure. But you consider what we have opportunities to build upon. And Michigan could be in an amazing spot, but it comes down to whether or not we've built a proper ecosystem and that there's proper cooperation amongst multiple entities like in Berrien County, who, when we come together, can change the direction of these things, whether it be housing or transportation or broadband or otherwise.
And the council wasn't populated by a lot of Republicans.
No, it wasn't.
And I think what we understand is that was a deliberate effort by those who formed the council, specifically the governor. And it was basically 19 Democrats, 1 Republican who had the votes.
But I will tell you that this former Republican in the Michigan Senate and the Michigan House, on behalf of people in Southwest Michigan, got to carry a message forward.
And how was that received?
You know what? It was good debate. Look, if you're not at the table of thought process, if you're not at the table of good dialogue, if you're not at the table, then we're not going to move the ball
really have
forward.
no standing to criticize unless you're at the table.
And in our subcommittee, which met all across the state for about 3 months or so, whether it be Detroit or Lansing or online. I mean, we used technology to be able to make that happen, which, by the way, broadband's a part of that conversation. Here in Berrien County, the BC BIT is doing amazing work with Commissioner Freeling. So things are happening. But in those conversations, we had a very significant debate about how do you pay for some of these pie in the sky is the wrong way to put it, or a donut or otherwise. I mean, you still have to have a realistic view of the fact that you can't just tax people into oblivion to be able to have the best roads in the nation. But you can certainly talk about how we're going to get better value for the roads that we have, ensuring that we're moving people where they want to be. So a small example, in our infrastructure and place, which meant communities. What is it that we have in communities that are resilient and
the committee you were on, infrastructure in place.
Infrastructure in place, correct, which is one of the 3 subcommittees. And there were 25 people or so in our subcommittee.
Okay.
Great debate. There was a proposal that was put forward for light rail to go between our biggest cities. It's absolutely enormous, the amount of money that it would take to build a light rail system between, let's say, South Bend and Grand Rapids, or Niles, St. Joe, Benton Harbor and Grand Rapids, or even Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids, right? We have an artery that exists already. It's 131 between Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids. If we were to do that, we have a lot of the population that I represented that are rural, much more agricultural based, many miles in some cases between individual properties and plots of land, etc. Now, in Southeast Michigan, it may be a very different conversation. The density is much greater, but you have to ask the question too, if the density is that much greater and we're losing population, what are the reasons why? So I kind of stuck my nose in there and said, hold on, we need to look at Southwest Michigan as a perfect foil for the rest of the state, because in the population that I represented, it was much more rural. Do we need transportation solutions? Absolutely, which is what Strategic Leadership Council is trying to solve too. So the debate was very good. I will say that I got the sense that the subcommittees were very willing to have bipartisan thought. But you're right. There's some criticism that, in fact, it could have been more bipartisan at the actual council level. That had the voting.
Because, I mean, looking at the final report, they came out with 3 strategies. Number 1, build a lifelong education system focused on future-ready skills and competencies. Number 2, strategy 2, create a transformative economic growth strategy that establishes Michigan as the innovation hub of the Midwest and America's scale-up state. And strategy 3, create thriving, resilient communities that are magnets for young talent. Okay. They needed 6 months to come up with that?
Those are broad brushstrokes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, in the subcommittee, we had very direct sorts of conversation about how you would actually solve those problems.
I mean, do they come up with actual proposals? And as you mentioned, it doesn't seem like the funding is there.
The funding isn't there. It doesn't specifically speak to funding, but I can tell you in the subcommittees, we talked about funding and how would funding work. I made the point very directly, and this was the beauty, I think, in part of having had the experience of being in the legislature, serving the people of Southwest Michigan, the questions that I asked were have we pressure tested this against the kind of cost that it would be, such as that question about light rail between Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids, right? Or Ann Arbor and Kalamazoo. What are we going to do to actually understand what kind of a cost structure so that we can bring reality to it, and in such a way that like I said, I'm not dismissing that maybe that is a good strategy in a highly densely populated area like Southeast Michigan, but I'm not so sure it works for us in the rest of what some people call outstate Michigan, right?
Right.
We're not out of state. Are you kidding me? I'm still in Michigan. But that's kind of the phraseology of some of our larger population areas. And ultimately, in the legislature, we would ask that question, and we would then send it to the bean counters, right? We'd send it to House Fiscal, Senate Fiscal, nonpartisan analysts that would take that, and then they would pressure test that if we asked them against how did other states do it? Did other states look at light rail? Just to use that as the continuing example right now.
Yeah.
But insert any one of these very direct solutions. Let me give you one that popped up here that I was able to push into this report. And it didn't come out very clearly, which is a little bit of a disappointment.
Okay.
We passed Proposal A, which moved us to a different way of taxing our property at the state level, right? So our homes and so forth, our home value is now a state equalized value. We send that essentially to Lansing. Lansing sends it back as a per pupil foundation grant to our students, right? That was Proposal A of 1994. Previous to that, we passed the Headley Amendment, which is a constitutional amendment passed by the people of the state of Michigan that caps the amount of tax increases that we face as citizens, so that it isn't arbitrary, it's clearly defined, and it can't go beyond the rate of inflation or 5%, whichever's less, right? So this is the first time in the last couple of years that Headley actually, because of inflation, Headley actually was implemented. But our local municipalities, based on growth in their municipalities, have had to decrease their tax rates to keep below the Headley, what's called the Headley rollback.
Okay.
It gets a little bit complicated, but here's what's interesting. Here in Berrien County, at the Strategic Leadership Council, local municipalities have been asking the question, what happens when Headley interacts with Proposal A? Semi-complicated, but here's the deal. If we don't recognize that municipalities are unable to continue to grow and invest in their own communities because of Headley and because of Proposal A, we've probably lost the entire audience right now, then we're artificially, and the two things happen separate of each other, about 20, 25 years apart from each other in the state of Michigan. The two interact today to lower even more the engagement of our local municipalities to handle sewer, water, infrastructure, place, downtown roads, whatever it may be. And the city of Bridgman, Juan Ganum in particular, has taken this under his wing and said, how do we solve this without destroying the constitutional requirement of Headley and recognizing that Proposal A is a good thing? How do we solve that in a proper way? We put a proposal forward that doesn't blow up the intent of Proposal A and doesn't blow up the intent of Headley, but instead solves it in a more reasonable manner, because the two interact even though they pass 25 years apart from each other.
So if I follow what you're saying, if I connect the dots here, you're basically saying there's a money issue.
In some cases, not entirely.
Okay.
Not entirely. Because look, if you haven't built an infrastructure around you, and a set of public policies that makes it attractive for growth, that makes it attractive for businesses to invest,
right,
that's where a Rob Cleveland would tell you, we need an infrastructure, or rather an ecosystem,
right,
that is actually attractive for growth.
And does this set of recommendations from the Governor's Council get at that?
It talks about it, but it doesn't specifically talk about the implementation.
How to get
That's
there.
where we need to rely upon our locals.
Okay.
Like an economic development organization like Cornerstone.
So what's going to go ahead?
Like Strategic Leadership Council, where we're actually implementing those very specific things to change Berrien County's ecosystem.
I mean, and so what's going to happen with these proposals? How are they going to get from where they are here, unfunded and broad strokes, perhaps.
Right.
Because I'm looking at the list of the top 12 fastest growing U.S. states. Topping the list with 25% growth since 2010, Idaho. Utah, 23% growth. Texas, 21% growth. Florida, 20% growth. Nevada, 18% growth. Michigan, we lost 0.3%. So what are they doing that we're not doing? Because we'd love to see double-digit growth.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's a couple things. The political hat that I would wear would say, let's take a look at the public policies that are being implemented in those states that make it more attractive to grow jobs, that make it more attractive to live, to work, to play, to retire, etc. Those public policies have a significant impact. And it's clear that those public policies are working there. I think the pandemic showed some significant challenges that Michigan faces in being that attractive state. And so from a public policy perspective, if I were still in the legislature, I'd be pushing back on this and saying, much like Representative Pauline Wentzel did, in saying, look, it's pretty clear to us that there are solutions that exist, and they exist in peer states like Idaho. Florida isn't necessarily a peer state in terms of size,
Right.
but you can look at some of the public policy initiatives. Now, this gets dangerous, right? Because now you're talking about Governor DeSantis, who's running for president, and he wants to point to Florida as being a great example of how you should do public policy.
Yeah.
But Idaho is sparse in terms of population, not a lot of people, but growing leaps and bounds, right? Look, I think the polarization in our nation is significant enough, but we have to ask the question, why is it working in some states and not in ours? And that's where ultimately, whatever this council has come up to say, it is now important that public policymakers, Representative Joey Andrews, Senator Jonathan Lindsay, Senator Eric Nesbitt, the folks that we've elected to represent Berrien County, they're going to have to dig into the details of this and push forward a proposal that might solve that interaction between Proposal A and Headley, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Now that takes initiative, that takes understanding. Here's the good thing that I see from all of this. If we're talking in a vacuum, we may not know exactly what the problem is. You first got to clearly define the problem.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Growing Michigan Together Council did that. You can see empirical data that says we're doing things wrong. What can we do to do it better?
Yeah.
So now it's up to the public policymakers to get this right.
And so far, they've got an uphill climb. State Senator Eric Nesbitt saying after the council released its report, while I'm glad the governor's council didn't give her every tax hike on her Christmas wish list, I'm sure she'll still use this report as an excuse to raid the pocketbooks of struggling Michiganders. Jonathan Lindsay said this council has the potential to be a good thing for Michigan, but it's proven to be a sham that put forth the governor's already determined agenda-driven goals. And then Pauline Wentzel, a voting member, the only member of the council to vote against the recommendations, said the council played politician for a day. They put forward multiple ideas, some of which have been kicked around by the legislature and study groups for years without a way to execute them. So I know we're close on time here, but next steps, given kind of the partisan feel of how they had a lot of opportunity. You were part of that opportunity.
That's right.
You were part of the conversation, and yet for politics or whatever other reason, the recommendations came out as I wouldn't say half baked, because there's a lot of good work here, but without a clear plan of how the state should fix it.
So first off, all three of those elected officials are not wrong from their perspective, right? Absolutely not at all. And in fact, you just heard me say essentially the same thing. Now, though, is the time that we need to be starting to implement action. Take what we and look, Senator Lindsay, Representative Wentzel, Senator Eric Nesbitt, who's the minority leader, also, by the way, so is in that room with the folks at the top level with the governor, right? So how do we get those sorts of conversations to move towards action? And that's ultimately what strategic leadership. There's fights at the Strategic Leadership Council as to how do we implement some of these big initiatives on housing and transportation and so forth. None of this is easy work. We've identified the problem. We've circled the problem. We've identified what needs to be done. There are plenty of great solutions underneath the document that's been published. Now let's start to implement some bills. And I'd be the first to say, if you're not at the table trying to solve those problems, and which is why I said yes to it. And look, I worked with Governor Whitmer for many years in the Michigan Senate. I consider her a friend. We voted very differently an awful lot. And we don't have the same constituencies. She represented a densely populated East Lansing area. I didn't. I represented a Southwest Michigan agricultural based with a couple of big, more urban areas. But at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, which is a better place for our families, a better place for our moms and dads who live here and where we grew up, a better place for the folks that we want to bring into the state so that we're growing. I don't have any doubt that we can do that. But at some point, we've got to put pen to paper now. We've clearly defined it. We have a fact-based set, which is what SLC, Strategic Leadership Council, is good at doing. Let's identify the problem. Let's agree to the facts. And then how do we build those facts into change, into things that make it better for our citizens and the people that we represent? So I look forward to working with Democrats and Republicans in showing what we've done in Southwest Michigan and bringing in great thought leaders to continue to have that discussion. And I hope we can have some implementation of new bills that change the trajectory. And maybe we need to look to Florida and Idaho and other states to see, hey, what did they do to make an ecosystem that's stronger and better for the future?
Yeah. Anything else on this we need to mention?
Oh my goodness, where could we continue?
What are you doing for the holidays? Anything fun?
My wife is
we're talking with former state senator John Prose.
Do we want to have you stick around for a little bit so we
got
can
a couple
move?
minutes?
I'd be happy to for a few minutes. That sounds great.
All right,
Thank
perfect. Well, we'll get to your Bloomberg Market Minute here in just a moment. It's the morning show on 94.9 WSJM.
I'm Jason Hiska, CEO of Sturgis Bank and Trust.
And I'm Matt Shesky, President and Chief Operating Officer. Christmas has always been my family. Waking up early, parents would play some music, we'd get out of bed and we'd go open presents underneath the tree, and fantastic memories. And today,
Hey, all right, here we go.
Are you getting donut stuff on the board over there?
No.
Okay.
No, never.
Anybody want a bite of the blueberry? It is good.
I got the
Can't go
chocolate.
wrong.
The chocolate is the way to go
Chocolate
too.
cake.
Chocolate cake frosted.
All right.
Mm-mm-mm.
I need to sweeten up a little bit. So.
Congratulations to your daughter on a wonderful, wonderful season.
Thank you.
That was pretty awesome to see, I'm sure.
Oh boy, they the entire squad just gelled, and then unfortunately, and it happens, right? You get to the quarterfinals, a team that we absolutely should have beaten, and we played the worst match we played all season.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
dear.
was so sad. They're juniors though, with a couple of seniors.
Right.
We'll miss those seniors. I mean, it's going to be a hole, but we've got a good core. And Aaron Cashin, our new head coach, has done a really, really nice job.
You talking volleyball?
Volleyball.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So this is also the same group of girls in the spring that are two-time regional finalists and have lost in the regions in soccer 2 years in a row as freshmen and sophomores. Now they're all juniors with a couple of seniors again. So this should be a good squad.
So pretty much we need to be watching next year volleyball and soccer and seeing them go possibly through pretty far in the playoffs.
It'd be fun if they do. And if not, you know what? That's what athletics is all about. You've got to learn how to win. You got to learn how to lose.
Yeah.
But that teamwork and that leadership, that's what they're learning.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. And Nora it's just fun to watch your kids do cool things. You know?
Oh yeah. And get that extended season too. That's a fun thing.
Absolutely. Yep.
Sportsmanship. We were talking about it this morning. There's who's the NBA player who just got
Draymond Green.
Yeah, Day.
You see that?
A good Spartan. Come on, Draymond.
But, great player, but
the leadership, the teamwork, the sportsmanship.
Yep.
Sportsmanship.
Uh-huh.
Come on.
You'd think Tom Izzo taught him a bunch of stuff, but he just apparently that was the one thing he didn't listen to. So yeah, that is unfortunate.
What do you think's happening with Michigan now that we've got some early primaries coming up? Presidential. Got some poll numbers out there. Another poll. Let's see. So we saw two early. This is nationally, but also looking at Michigan. CNN, Newsweek both had polls where Trump is leading Biden. Saw another poll was it Bloomberg? I think had something similar.
Well, I think if you're the Democrat Party, you are really concerned.
Yeah.
But knowing what it takes to stand up an administration and all of the people that are now a part of the Biden administration, they're not going to let go. In spite of the poll numbers, et cetera, right? They just aren't going to let go.
Meaning they're not going to replace their candidate at the top.
The folks that are in the Biden administration know. The rest of the Democratic Party is got to be asking the question, what if?
All right.
Yeah. I don't know how they do that.
I don't either.
Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
The Morning Show with Jonny and Ken on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
Good morning, a little past 7:30. It's Friday, so we can do whatever we want because it's our show. And if we are overtime, who cares?
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes. We'll get ourselves back on time. We'll get to Michael Patrick Shields at 9. Well, as long as we get
we get to 9
You can
o'clock.
As long as we get there,
Yeah.
we're
I
fine.
didn't take a breath the last half hour, so
That's
sorry
okay.
about that.
But you definitely you taught us a lot. I felt like I was back in school again, and really that sort of that science project. When any science project, you identify the problem, you come up with your plan, and there's still a lot of work to do with this process. And now it's that experimental phase of you try to figure out the research and development, whatever you want to call it. That's when the real work is going to be happening with the recommendations that you guys have put together.
And that ultimately is what I hope for, right? Yeah. And look, I understand why Senator Lindsay and Senator Nesbitt and Representative Wenzel, who was on the committee and voted against the proposals.
Yeah.
I completely understand why they came up with that position and why they made those statements, as you noted, Ken. But I would encourage leaders on both sides of the aisle now to look at that and say, okay, we've clearly defined the problem. What are strategies to try to solve that? And we can debate whether or not that's a proper strategy, much like we did on this light rail question. And I push back hard on it, right? I mean, in Southwest Michigan, the cost per person is so prohibitive to do light rail between Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids and have us pay for it. Or Kalamazoo and Dowagiac or otherwise. And I said, and by the way, don't we subsidize as a nation right now Amtrak.
Right. In
So
a big way.
if we already pay transportation subsidies to make Amtrak effective, and it's becoming more and more effective, more people are using it. The Pierre Marquette line is a fantastic transportation mode here in Southwest Michigan. It's getting faster. We're solving some of the speed issues.
Yeah.
That's all good stuff, right? Maybe there ought to be recognition that we don't need to come up with a whole new rail system. We need to invest more effectively and efficiently in what we currently have. And so that's where I think now the hard work begins, right?
Sure.
The proposal itself is going to have detractors and naysayers, as well as those that say this is the best thing since sliced bread. And thank you, Governor. At the end of the day, though, that's why I wanted to be at the table, so that I could push back in some areas that I thought were effective and smart. And because we're already doing it at Strategic Leadership Council. You've got to be at the table as a thought leader if you're going to try to solve problems.
So where does this go from here?
Well, my hope is that it becomes a series of implementation bills.
What should they work on first?
I think transportation's an easy one.
Yeah.
Because it's the most obvious to everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
And they wouldn't even have to tax. They could use the $9 billion surplus, right? Oh, did that disappear?
I'm not so sure that's around any longer. And that
Christmas
may have
presents, a lot of Christmas presents being purchased. What's
but
going
that
on?
gets to the public policy questions of what do we find as priority, and what are we doing to make Michigan an attractive place to work, to grow, to play, to retire, et cetera. Right. So that's ultimately the question we're asking at Strategic Leadership Council. But at the state level now, this Growing Michigan Together Commission's trying to answer that question too. There are examples, like you pointed out, Ken, of states that are doing something right because population is growing.
Yeah.
You know, in 2023, we're 2.5% of the entire U.S. population. In 1970, we were 3.9% of the entire U.S. population.
Wow.
We had 4 of the top 10 highest grossing. This is an amazing statistic. 4 of the top 10 highest grossing communities in real wages in the nation. 4 of the top 10.
Wow.
And we don't have that any longer. They've been long gone since then. And So some of those things we need. And by the way, we see that in representation in the United States Congress, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for years, we were, 18 members of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
We're at 13 members of Congress right now.
Mm.
Again, because where have we seen population increases? Arizona, Idaho, California, until this last census, had never lost a member of Congress. They'd only grown more members of Congress. I think California is now at 52 members of
it's something
Congress.
ridiculous.
Yeah, something in the 50s, yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing. Well, and our founders did a really smart thing. They said, well, wait a second, we're going to do it proportionally in the House of Representatives, which is why there seems to be outsized for New York, Illinois, and California, right? Because they have that many more representatives in the U.S. House of Representatives. In Michigan, we're proportional, both in the House and the Senate. So 90,000 people each for the House members. And
speaking about House and Senate and national races and presidential politics and that kind of thing, what's interesting you these days? What's catching your interest on
these polls?
Yeah,
these polls are amazing right now. To have both on the Republican side and the Democrat side, the presumptive candidates being underwater in terms of that ability to be elected, but to be so far out ahead within their party itself. It just points to the polarization that we have, even in the parties themselves, entirely polarized, which leads to a really interesting discussion and question. How does it play when you now see the sitting president of the United States and the former president of the United States in head-to-head discussions, showing the former president of the United States, Trump, leading in some of these polls in swing states,
including Michigan?
Yeah. That has got to terrify the Democrat Party in answering the question of, is President Biden our best option heading into this next election year? One thing to be key about is, and to be discerning about when you have the conversation, is the national polls as an aggregate really aren't going to give you the flavor of what's happening. It's the individual state by state by state.
Yeah.
Because ultimately we have 50 different presidential elections because of the Electoral College, right? So that's why these swing state polls are so critical in asking the question, what happens? I think there's an outside chance that you see Chicago's Democrat convention be really an unusual convention.
Oh, I bet.
Kind of a replay of 1968, was it?
Isn't that funny? that was in Chicago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Look, it could, something like that could happen.
Oh. That'll be interesting. I know we promised to get you out of here by 7:30. It's now 7:43. Our apologies for that. Anything else? Any fun plans for the holidays?
Family. And
great.
And look, I hope everybody has a safe, enjoyable, they travel safely. We've had some warm weather right now. But we know what winters can be like in Michigan.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully folks travel safely and have just a blessed Christmas season.
Kids are all back at the house already?
Not yet. We've got three kids. Two of them are coming back from college today.
Nice.
And my sister and brother-in-law are coming in from Columbus, Ohio with their three.
Wonderful.
I don't know how they're going to all fit. They were little at one point. My youngest nephew is 6'8".
Oh,
and
wow.
about 240.
6'8"?
He's huge. He's huge. He throws about a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
Oh, that's great.
That's nice.
Yeah, and he might just eat my home down to the
Oh,
ground.
yeah.
I don't know how we're going to survive this weekend.
You just back up the truck and get a load of food in there.
Oh, Christy and I put together a grocery list that I don't even.
It might be as long as that 85-page report.
It could be as long, but you know what? It is very actionable because I know exactly what this kid needs to eat. We're good. We've got a lot of college kids coming home, which we're excited about.
Well, great. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that other stuff. So thanks for joining us.
And
We
to all
really
of you.
appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thanks for the donuts.
Absolutely.
Like we needed that, but that's fine.
right.
No, that thank
Go
you.
for a longer run today, Ken. You're good.
Exactly. Former State Senator John Prose joining us in studio this morning. Thank you.
We got sports here in just a moment. We'll also catch you up with what's happening around the nation and the world with ABC News.
ABC News. I'm Derek Dennis. A terror investigation in Europe leading to multiple arrests. Several suspects linked to Hamas were allegedly plotting against Jews. ABC News learning of 3 men taken into custody so far in the Netherlands and Denmark, with 4 more being sought, and 3 more in Berlin, Germany are under arrest as well. Israel-Hamas diplomacy. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan sits down today with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas after meeting with Israel's President Netanyahu yesterday. He's pushing for a new ceasefire, the release of more hostages, and more humanitarian aid into Gaza. Long term, he's trying to broker a two-state solution.
The Israeli people need and deserve to live in peace and security with their neighbors in a region that is integrated, dynamic, and stable. That is what we are working toward.
Meantime, in Ukraine's push for more international funding, House lawmakers have left for holiday recess while the Senate is delaying its recess to work on an immigration border deal, which is said to be a sticking point in Ukraine funding. This is ABC News.
In the NBA last night, the Chicago Bulls opened the game on a 33-8 run to beat the Miami Heat 124-116. In the NHL, Jordan Staal broke a 1-1 tie midway through the second period as the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Detroit Red Wings 2-1. The Wings have lost 4 of their last 5. And Kyler Yamamoto scored 2 goals as the Seattle Kraken beat the Chicago Blackhawks 7-1. NFL Thursday Night Football last night had the Las Vegas Raiders over the LA Chargers 63-21. Saturday, the Colts host Pittsburgh at 4:30. The Lions are home to face Denver at 8:15 on Saturday night. That's a 7 o'clock pregame show on Rock 107 WIRX. And Sunday, the Bears are at Cleveland at 1 o'clock. College basketball this weekend, number 6 Baylor is at Michigan State at 2 o'clock. That game is at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. The pregame show on Super Hits 103.7 Cozy FM is at 1 o'clock. And Eastern Michigan is at Michigan at 2:30 on Saturday. The pregame show on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM is at 2 o'clock. With sports, I'm Dave Wolf.
Hi, I'm Congressman Bill Huizenga. Out-of-control spending in Washington has caused inflation to soar and forced families across Michigan to spend hundreds of dollars more each month. Now I'm building a bipartisan, bicameral effort to rein in spending and get our nation's fiscal house in order. Washington shouldn't be making it harder for Michiganders to enjoy the holidays, and as your representative in Congress, I'm working to lower prices, increase affordability, and reduce our national debt.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Tickets are on sale now for the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber's Business Recognition Breakfast, Friday, February 16th at 7 a.m. The morning will feature a special keynote from internationally acclaimed TED Talker and Wall Street Journal bestselling author Drew Dudley. And you'll vote for the 2024 Business Recognition Award winners. Tickets are available at smrchamber.com. Special thanks to event sponsors: ABC 57 News, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, Midwest Family, Moody on the Market.com, Horizon Bank, Comcast Business, and Sturgis Bank and Trust.
In a world where furnace breakdowns happen, Becky was left without heat in the middle of the night. Thankfully, she did what smart homeowners do and called Boss Services, because Becky solved it like a boss. A real person answered the phone, and a Boss technician arrived right away, leaving her warm and cozy in no time. This winter, get a furnace repair for $50 off. Call for details. Boss Services, raising the standard in heating, duct cleaning, bathrooms, and more. Now serving in your neighborhood.
From ABC News Tech Trends, if you own a Tesla, there's a good chance your car is being recalled. Tesla is recalling 2 million vehicles, nearly every car it's ever made. EV Pulse editor-in-chief Chad Kirshner says it has to do with the car's standard driver assistance technology called autopilot.
It handles the lane centering, accelerating, and decelerating so that you can pay attention to other things.
Autopilot is a hands-on system,
which means you're never supposed to take your hands off the steering wheel.
But the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says that system is easy to fool and that the company doesn't do enough to ensure drivers are being attentive.
They say the car can drive itself, and it can't. Tesla hasn't done enough to tell people that it can't.
Tesla has agreed to fix the problem with a free over-the-air software update, but it says there is incontrovertible data that shows autopilot saves lives. NHTSA's investigation into the tech is ongoing. With Tech Trends, I'm Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
WSJM Weather You Can Depend On is sponsored by Boss Services, raising the standard for heating, cooling, and electrical in Southwest Michigan. Boss Services.
Mostly sunny skies today. Winds will be light, but out of the southwest, and that's going to help get us up around 48 this afternoon. Will become cloudy as we head into this evening, and overnight we'll drop down to 36. And cloudy skies for Saturday. Late in the day, we'll see a few chances of rain. The best chance of rain will be Saturday night and into Sunday morning. Highs Saturday at 47, 48 on Sunday. I'm meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Jonny and Ken on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
Good morning. You can be part of the show anytime. You can call 925-WSJM. You can email let's talk at WSJM.com on our Facebook and our YouTube. If you want to watch a behind the scenes there as well. Big thanks to John Prose for stopping by, and whoever has an appointment with him later, we already gave him the permission slip, so he's
to
going
be a little late.
To be a little bit late. So hopefully he doesn't have any pressing issues for that person's
That was
understanding.
great. That was good conversation.
Yeah, I always love talking with John.
You know, and he brings up a lot of good points about some of the structural things that are in Michigan that help keep, let's say, taxes in line, under control, predictable to some aspect. But at the same time, if you have a lot of things that you need for growth in the state, making sure that you respect those, that can be complicated all of a sudden.
Well, and it's not going to fix itself like a light switch and just next day it's going to be
there's no
fine.
on and off. No easy solution.
Oh, recommendations? All right, cool. We're good. Now we're good. No, we got a problem. We need to solve it. How do we solve it? Okay, here's some recommendations. Okay, let's get to work and let's do it.
As long as, and I think they have that in this document, as long as they're not just looking backward to see, okay, well, here are the problems. Here's what we need to do to fix those problems, to make sure they're adjusting for the future.
Right.
Because, I mean, so many things have changed. Some of these changes will stick around, say from the pandemic, you know, some remote work flexibility. We've seen that go up and down, but at the same time, a lot of people are saying, well, some of these things, we're going to keep them. They're going to be institutionalized.
And
so,
it's one of those things too, though, is when things change, which things change all the time, is how you adapt to those changes.
Exactly.
I mean, state of Michigan went from being a logging state to innovation happening so much with automotive. And now we look at where we're at now.
Yeah.
And how we move into the future, how that innovation part is that other next thing.
Yeah.
So
Let's do agriculture and IT. I think that'd be good.
Agriculture and IT.
Yeah. Blueberries and computer coding.
Well, that's the interesting part is the broadband is that one thing that's like, oh, how do I get you almost have oil and water there. You've got agriculture, you got all this open land.
Yeah.
And now you got all this stuff running underneath it to possibly keep it connected.
It'll work.
Yeah.
We get a network of
Glad
satellites.
you're not on in that meeting room.
Get a network of satellites to float over
There you
us.
go. We can make that happen. It's time now for your Moody on the Market update, where we keep you informed on all things going on here, not only in Southwest Michigan when it comes to business, but also Southwest Michigan and why we love it here, and important people you should know, all right there at moodyonthemarket.com. Your update is brought to you by our friends at Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owners agency with locations in St. Joseph and in Niles.
Very close. This category is the interesting people you should know. Interesting people you should know. Fostering community one pint at a time. That's their one of their taglines. The Sister Lakes Brewing Company out in Dowagiac, fostering some national Food Network attention.
Ooh,
yeah, Sister
Food Network.
See, food is good. Sister Lakes Brewing Company tells us their executive chef. We debated how to pronounce his last name. Chef Justin Paruskewicz.
Yeah, Paruskewicz or Paruskiewicz, whichever.
Paruskewicz
one of
will
the two.
Featured on an upcoming episode of Food Network's Guys Grocery Games.
Nice.
It's going to air on Wednesday, January 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern. You know this. You know the show.
I love the show. It's very, it's like Supermarket Sweep with an extra twist. There's games. There's also, they cook and they do trivia, and they
Okay.
do all kinds of fun stuff. I'd love to host that someday.
Yeah.
He says this is a huge honor for Justin and for us, and it's a great opportunity to watch him showcase his culinary skills while competing with other talented chefs from across the country. That's at Sister Lakes Brewing. They will be hosting a viewing party to watch the airing, and they're inviting the public to join and cheer Chef Justin's achievements.
That's Wednesday, January 3rd. The show is going to be on at 9 o'clock, Food Network. And according to his online profile, Chef Justin was born and raised in Harvey, Illinois. He attended Ball State University and received his bachelor's degree in food and hospitality management. And Chef Justin has also been working professionally in the food industry since 2005. After graduating from the Cooking and Hospitality Institute of Chicago.
And I will say the food's fantastic, so I'm sure he'll do great. But though, when you think about it, when you watch a viewing party, and I'm sure he's had to be hush hush about how he's where he ended up in the competition.
Yep.
What if it's like he's out in like just a matter of minutes?
Oh, I don't know.
No, I'm sure he did fantastic, and I'm sure it'd just be fun to talk to him about the experience. And what that's been like.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
And what's Guy Fieri like?
Yeah, I would say Guy Fieri looks like he's a lot of fun.
He is. Yeah. I feel like he's as crazy as he is when it comes to his look and his shows and his energy. I'm sure he's just a really, really nice dude.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thank goodness for food shows.
Check it out at moodyonthemarket.com along with the other great stories as well. Your update is brought to you by our friends at Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owners agency with locations in St. Joseph and in Niles. Coming up here in the next hour, we've got a busy schedule with the 8 o'clock block as well as Furry Friends Friday and Flick Pick and so much more. By the way, Flick Pick, The Holdovers.
Oh, I hear good things about
Paul Giamatti movie.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing what Andrew has to say about that.
I hope he liked it.
I hope so too, because I need to see that movie. I've been wanting to. I just want to make sure the review's good.
Yep.
So we'll get to that a little bit later. It's the morning show on 94.9 WSJM.
Here's Rich Brandt and Derek Halsey from Insurance Management Service, your local auto owners agency.
All right.
All righty. That was a quick hour.
It was a quick hour.
Where did the time go?
I don't know. I feel like your internal clock doesn't exist. Because you get in a conversation and you're like, we got some time, right? We got some time. And I'm like, no, you didn't have time 5 minutes ago. But it's all right. We cover
a bigger
all
clock.
the bases.
Maybe we should put a clock over there somewhere.
Yeah.
So
maybe I'll get you like you've said before, that bat phone that some radio people have. Maybe I'll get you that.
That was so annoying.
No, it's good. I mean, we're covering all the commercials. We're covering everything that needs to be said here and done. It's our show. We can do what we want.
We can do what we want. And we did yesterday. That was so much fun again. I can't thank the people enough for coming out and showing up and just being part of the show.
Absolutely. And for those of you that watched on our live stream, even the people that were cheering on the people playing the games.
I gotta say though, the trivia was really tough.
I didn't think it was that tough.
It was tough.
I mean, I guess it's because I've watched tons of movies.
What was the
and
kid's
I know
name
a lot of things
in Christmas Story? Not Mikey.
The
little brother.
Ralphie and Randy.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It's obvious. Everybody knew that.
Last night I was thinking about it again. It's like, what did he say the name was?
Randy. Ralphie, Randy,
the big Stay Puft guy.
Because he says his name multiple times. And the mom says it too.
I love when they do the 24 hours of the Christmas Story. I can just sit there and watch it.
I like the movie,
just keep
but
it on
not,
in the background.
I
like
like the movie not that much. Like I watch it like once or twice and I'm good.
Yeah.
But I would like, you got the 12 Days of Christmas. I would like the 12 different Christmas movies.
Do you have a favorite Christmas movie?
No. I mean, It's a Wonderful Life was something we always watched when I was a kid.
That's a great one.
Because I love Jimmy Stewart. I just love black and white movies and the classics.
Wow.
Sad movie, but good story and a good movie overall.
It has a happy ending.
Yeah. But
maybe you fall asleep before.
No, it was the journey to get there where it was very
Yes.
sad.
Yes.
But it was very Christmas Carol-esque as well. Like, what would your life be like without?
That's right.
But I would say Home Alone's up there.
Okay. That is good.
Some of the newer ones that have come out. I like there's an animated movie called Klaus. That's kind of the story of sort of how Santa Claus became Santa Claus in the perspective of a mailman.
Oh. Okay.
So it's pretty interesting. J.K. Simmons is the voice of Santa Claus, so you can't beat that.
Okay.
So that one, I believe it's on Netflix. And then there's Fred Claus is a great one, and I like the Santa Claus as well with Tim Allen.
Yeah, Tim Allen.
That whole series.
I was
is
just
good.
thinking of that one. That's fun. Scrooged. Do you like?
I'm not a Scrooged fan.
Really?
No.
I like it when they talk about stapling the antlers to the mice.
Sure.
That's fun.
Yeah, that movie I only saw it a few times when I was growing up, that I didn't really get into it. But yeah, in my house, White Christmas, can't go wrong with that one.
Yeah.
That's a good, of course, star-studded movie. But yeah,
Miracle on 34th.
Yeah, both of them. Like the one with
Natalie
Wood, and then the newer one that they had as well
with Matilda.
With Matilda, yeah, and the guy that spares no expense in Jurassic Park.
Oh,
so yeah. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in our live stream. I hope you had a great time hanging out with us, and hopefully you have a great weekend as well.
Yeah, enjoy.
All right, bye now.